Overwatch 2 on the Nintendo Switch 2 is officially here. The game is on the Nintendo Switch 2 along with a bunch of other third-party games. It was not really promoted anywhere, and nobody really knew that Overwatch 2 was actually going to be carried over the Switch 2 or not, but like a lot of the other third-party titles for the Nintendo Switch 1, it did by default get carried over to the Switch 2, and it is playable on the new console. I'm going to kind of be doing a quick video kind of comparing gameplay to the Switch 1, the Switch 2, and those of you guys that are looking for another free-to-play game, third-party game of Overwatch 2, a first-person shooter type game. And if you guys are wondering how it runs on the Switch 2, whether you want to download it on the Switch 2, or if you're a newer player, or if you're somebody that plays on a different console and you're wondering if it's any better on this system. Overall, I do think it is a little bit better, which we're going to talk about. I'll probably throw some gameplay comparisons on screen for you guys from the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, and then kind of talk about some of the... There is a few, like one or two small things that are issues, but I'll talk about both of them, and then kind of overall what they kind of need to do with the Switch 2 version of the game going forward. Nintendo Switch 2 is actually really powerful. I think it's online with like the Xbox, the newer Xbox system, or the latest one, and then the PS5. So you could argue whether it's on the level of both of those. I don't really care, but they're all three on the same level now. We're no longer on a cheap console, and people can no longer use the excuse of, oh, you're playing on the Switch 1, man, that console can barely handle anything, blah, blah, blah. We're on all level playing fields now with all the other consoles, so if the PS5 and the Xbox One, or whatever that one is, if they're running on, like, higher frames per second, I think it's time to upgrade the game to a non-30 FPS cap. I think that's the main thing right now with the Switch 2 version. Is I think it's still capped at 30 FPS. So if you guys are looking to play the game on the Switch 2, it's still capped at 30 FPS, at least as of when I'm making this. The gameplay, however, it does run a little bit smoother, which I'll throw some gameplay comparing the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 in the background. Probably already. I have it on screen, or if not, I'll throw it on screen for you guys right now. Some gameplay comparisons for both games. I don't have like identical gameplay, like the same thing, but I'll throw like specific gameplay that was recorded on the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, so you guys can maybe see a little bit of a difference. The game does run a lot better, specifically in the situations where there's a lot going on. When you have like multiple people ulting and like doing a bunch of huge team fighting. The main problem with the Switch 1 is it would kind of lag and you have a lot of FPS drops, and the game would kind of chug a little bit and kind of get a little bit slow, especially during the times where everybody was doing like huge ults, like a Diva Bomb and like a bunch of other shit at the same time. The game would struggle a little bit. That was the only major problem with like the Switch 1. Everything else, it ran pretty well on the Switch 1 for what it was, so that is no longer really a problem either. I have not had any like bad FPS drops or like the game chugging and like kind of slowing down with the big team fights. That's, I think, the one big thing that I think the Switch 2 version kind of improved on. The game does run a lot smoother and it runs a lot better on the Switch 2 version from the Switch 1 version, so that is one thing if you guys are looking to play Overwatch 2 on the Switch 2. Overall, it's actually a lot better in that aspect. So keep in mind as well, like I talked about though, the game still is capped, I think, at 30 FPS, so kind of comes down to that as well. If that's going to be changed going forward or not, I'm not sure. The Switch 2 can handle it for sure. It for sure can handle 30 FPS, but like higher than that, so we'll see what they do going forward. But at the same time, do you want to remove the 30 FPS cap and then have a possible unstable, technically like unstable game where there's possible like crashing and like freezing issues if they happen to do that and try to rework the version, or do you just want to leave it the way it is and kind of be in the boat of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of type of stuff? Because the game runs great now. Like it's better than the Switch 1 even. It's actually a lot smoother and like what I talked about. So if they want to get rid of the FPS cap, they can. But will it break the game? Will there be issues removing that? I don't know. Depends how they optimize it. I don't know. As long as it runs good, like I'm not really gonna shit too much on like the 30 FPS cap. The only other two main things that I do want to talk about is the Switch 2 has a new Pro controller that has 2 new buttons on it. So I'm gonna pull up the controller menu for you guys right now on screen, and for the controller menu, you can actually set different buttons. The new Nintendo Switch 2 controller has 3 new buttons. One of them, which doesn't matter, which is the game chat button. It's the C button. Doesn't do anything. Does not matter. But there are 2 other new buttons. I think it's ZR and GR and GL. 2 new buttons on the Switch 2 Pro controller. I had to double check because it's a brand new controller, so apologize for that. But there's 2 new buttons on the Switch 2 Pro controller. Now the main thing you're going to want to do is you're going to actually want to set one of those buttons to toggle your voice chat as a push to talk button. But with the current iteration of Overwatch, they have not added those new buttons for the Switch players because the new controller has 2 new buttons. It does not recognize those buttons if you try to bind them. Because I can try to do that right now with crouch, and I can press the button and it won't do anything. Like I can do it right now and try to like bind it and it won't do anything. So that is just the only major issue, I think. Is the new Switch 2 Pro controller has 2 new buttons, and the game is not updated for the 2 new buttons to be having them like mapped on the controls for like certain stuff on the controller for the game. That's just one of the main things. The only other main thing too is if you guys have the Switch 2, if you don't know, if you don't have one, or if you're planning to get one, it actually has a built-in microphone on the console itself. So if you're actually using voice chat, either you're forced to actually turn off the voice chat for everything, like all the channels, and just go like set them no, like not to join them, and keep all the voice chat off. Or if you want to keep the voice chat on, anything you do, it gets picked up because you have like an actual like on console mic. So what I did, at least to kind of fix this temporarily and kind of get around it temporarily, is I did push to talk, and then I set like all my stuff to I bound the A button, which is I think normally crouch, which I don't really use that much anyways, to push to talk, so that way I can keep the voice chat on, but it's not on constantly. It's only on when I want to talk. So that's how I got around it currently. You guys can probably do whatever else you want. If you have other bindings you want to use, set it to a different button. I don't know. I would set this to one of the new buttons like GR or GZ or GL or whatever the new buttons are, but they are not mappable currently, and they are not available for the current button mapping because it has not been updated for the Switch 2 Pro controller. So hopefully they add that in future seasons, maybe season 17, season 18. It's not a big, super huge deal, but it's kind of annoying because you want to use those 2 new buttons to probably bind them to push to talk. That we don't have to change anything for your current setup for your bindings. So that's my only 2 other like major gripes that I've found with Overwatch 2 on the Switch 2. So apart from that, the game runs a lot better, like I talked about earlier in the video and all that other stuff. Game runs great. You should be able to get right in, just transferring it over from the virtual game card from Switch 1 over to the Switch 2. I had no problems logging in or anything with that, or account progress. Everything is there, which I think shouldn't really be an issue anyways, because it's tied to your Battle.net account, so I think that shouldn't really be a problem anyways, even if it was. But I want to do a short video kind of talking about the Switch 2 version of Overwatch 2, especially for the people that are considering getting it or wondering how it actually, if it actually transferred from the Switch 1 and if it's even on the Switch 2, because there really wasn't much actual people, like confirmation or people talking about it, so kind of want to do that type of thing. If you guys like Overwatch 2 stuff, I am an Overwatch Switch 2 streamer, so if you guys want to catch me when I'm live, I stream the game usually like once or twice a week, and I make usually content like every week on the game. So I have over like 3,500 hours into the game, and I've been playing since Overwatch 1 on the Nintendo Switch, and we are just getting started for the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Overwatch 2. So if you guys want to join me on the journey, subscribe. You guys ain't gonna find another Switch player as good as me playing Overwatch 2 on the Switch 2, I guarantee it. So even though I've been playing the game on the Switch 1 the entire time, so maybe you guys just first now found this video. I know a lot of people are probably new, but I want to throw that out there if that interests you guys. I also do a bunch of other stuff on this channel: Mario Kart World, Apex Legends for the Switch 2. I'll be making videos, a few videos on at the very least. The game sucks, but I want to make a few videos talking about how the game looks and runs on the Switch 2. And I got a bunch of other stuff: Warframe, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and a few other things. If that interests you guys, subscribe. Apart from that, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, everybody.